The air tasted of rust and decay. Dust hung thick in the late afternoon light, catching on the shattered glass of storefronts. Panic was a living thing, a wave of bodies surging down the ruined main street of a forgotten Arizona town. I was caught in its current, my legs moving without my command. A guttural chorus rose behind us. The stench hit next, old blood, spoiled meat, a sweetness that made the gorge rise. That was when my awareness slammed into place, a key turning in a foreign lock. The body I now inhabited stumbled to a halt. Throat sounds. Rot. Close. A burst of cheerful pop music, absurdly bright, filled my skull. An electronic voice chirped, "Salutations. Host, your auxiliary system, designation 520, is now online." "Oh, host, behind you." I whirled. The thing was an arm's length away, one side of its skull caved in, a milky eye fixed on me. The breath died in my chest. Then brilliance. A crackling spear of violet lightning split the air, striking the creature's crown. Not just that one. The entire shambling line behind it convulsed and fell, bodies searing black. The smell of ozone and burnt hair was overwhelming. I stumbled back, my heel catching on a chunk of concrete, and landed hard on the asphalt. Boots crunched on debris behind me. I looked back. A group moved with practiced efficiency, clearing the street. The man at their lead wore faded desert camo, his head shaved close. He was broad-shouldered, a long, heavy combat knife strapped across his back. My pulse jumped. Adrian. I pushed myself up, a greeting on my lips, but a younger man with fiery red hair stepped into my path, blocking me from the group. "Well, look what the cat dragged in," he sneered. "The cuckoo chick. Must be rough, the world ending before you got your ticket punched." Adrian's gaze swept over the scene, never settling on me. The others followed his lead, their expressions dismissive as they moved past. Only the redhead remained, a wall of contempt. "A word of free advice," he said, voice low. "The rules have changed. Stay out of the boss's way, or you'll find out how the world really works now." He shot me a final, cold glance and jogged to catch up with the others, drawing a handgun to join the cleanup. I remained at the edge of the zone they'd secured, watching Adrian work. His movements were brutally economical, the knife an extension of his arm. Violet energy danced along the blade, and with each strike, another corrupted form fell. It was terrifying and magnificent. So this is the apocalypse, I thought, a private line to the presence in my mind. And he's the one in charge. 520, host, your safety is confirmed. The randomized translocation protocol has assigned us a post-collapse scenario. The odds were not favorable. I gave a slight shake of my head, my attention fixed on Adrian. More specifically on the powerful set of his shoulders under the fatigues. He seemed to sense the weight of my stare. His head turned, and his eyes, sharp and assessing, locked onto mine for a heartbeat. I quickly looked down at my dusty boots. When I glanced up again, he had turned back to his work. The parameters were clear. This was a world broken by a pathogen, where a fraction of humanity developed anomalous abilities. Adrian possessed one of the most potent. I, in this borrowed life, did not. My borrowed history was a cliché, a switched-at-birth story plucked from daytime television. Adrian was the true scion of the wealthy Hayes family, raised in hardship by the woman who had stolen him. I was her biological son, raised in luxury, coddled and left utterly unprepared for a world like this. Before the collapse, when Adrian was brought back to the family estate, the original owner of this body had been relentlessly petty. A memory surfaced, clear and cruel. Standing on the sweeping staircase of the Hayes mansion, looking down at Adrian as he passed. "Must be overwhelming," the original had drawled. "All this space. Probably bigger than that whole trailer park you came from." As Adrian moved by, he'd added under his breath, "trash." The consequence had been immediate and violent. Adrian had pinned him against the wall by his throat. His voice a cold promise in his ear. Then you'd better hope you never end up in this trash's hands. The shock had made the original step back, forgetting the stairs. He'd tumbled down the last few, spraining an ankle. When the haze returned, the performance was Oscar-worthy. Tears, fragile confusion. The security footage showed the fall, showed Adrian reaching out, the context of the words lost. Mrs. Hayes, protective of the boy she'd raised, had politely asked Adrian to find other accommodations. After he left, the rumors began, spread by the original, that Adrian was violent, unstable, that he'd done unsavory things to survive. The chasm between them had widened into a canyon. Then the world ended. Adrian, on his own, thrived. The original, hiding in the family's fortified lakeside house with the elder Hayes, merely survived. The crisis that had just passed was a result of sheer stupidity, a provoked argument, a reckless dash outside alone. 5:20. The difficulty setting appears maximal once again. Host. Our statistical fortune is suboptimal. A minor inconvenience, I replied inwardly. Watch. I'll have him utterly devoted. In the distance, Adrian finished the sweep and started back toward our position. Collect the cores and fortify that auto shop for the night, he called to his team. Seeing him approach, I summoned the persona of the spoiled heir. I rushed forward, my voice pitching into a whine as I reached for his arm. Adrian, thank God. We need to get back to the base now. It's not safe out here. He sidestepped my grasp with ease. We're not going back. What? The disbelief in my voice was sharp, edged with the entitlement I was meant to embody. What do you mean? I demand you take me back immediately. A faint, cold smile touched his lips. No one's stopping you. The road's that way. From across the street, someone called, Adrian, the shop is clear. We've got the shutters down. He turned and walked away without another word. Anger, hot and familiar to this body, flared in my chest. But a glance around at the deepening twilight, the lengthening shadows, and the low, hungry moans carried on the wind crushed it into fear. With a sullen expression, I hurried after him, falling in at the rear of the group. Adrian's jaw tightened, but he didn't order me away. I released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Inside the dim auto shop, the group settled. Rations were distributed, a protein bar each, and a single pot of water was boiled for instant noodles. The scent of the cheap broth filled the space. After a day of terror and running, my stomach clenched painfully. I walked up to where Adrian sat on an overturned crate, biting into his bar. I'm hungry, I announced, my tone brittle. He didn't look up. The man stirring the noodles glanced over but continued his task, taking his cue from Adrian's silence. My anxiety spiked. I reached out to grab Adrian's sleeve. His hand shot up, his fingers closing around my wrist with punishing force. Pain, bright and startling, brought instant tears to my eyes. The world fell apart, he said, his voice flat. No one cares that you used to be Elliot Hayes. Remember that. But your parents, I gasped, trying to pull free. At the base, they made you promise to look after me. You're breathing. You're not one of them. That's me looking after you. He took another bite, his gaze on me holding a dark amusement.
I'm starving.
I want the noodles. The cook finally brought a steaming bowl to Adrian, filled to the brim. The aroma was torture. Adrian took the bowl, his large hands making it look small, and ate with deliberate slowness. Frustration overrode caution. You think you're so great, I snapped. You're only here because you sold yourself out. The words hung in the air. Adrian stopped chewing. He looked up, and a slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. Want some noodles? I blinked, wary. He handed the bowl off, stood, and in one fluid motion, grabbed the collar of my shirt. He dragged me, stumbling, into a small office at the back of the shop. What are you doing? My voice was shrill with panic as he shoved me against the dusty window. Through a crack in the blinds, I could see shadowy figures shuffling in the lot below. He didn't answer. He released my collar and began to unbutton his fatigue jacket. He shrugged it off, then pulled his shirt over his head, revealing a torso of defined muscle and old scars. "You keep talking about what you deserve," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Here's the new merit system. You have to be useful to eat." He stepped closer, cupping my jaw with one rough hand, forcing my head up. With his other thumb, he wiped harshly at the grime on my cheek, revealing paler skin beneath. "All that upkeep," he mused, his touch trailing down to the back of my neck. "It left you with a decent face." His fingers slipped lower, pressing into the small of my back. A full-body shiver racked me. He squeezed, hard. His eyes darkened. His Adam's apple bobbed as he leaned in, his breath hot against my ear. "So, Elliot, if you want to eat now, this is how you earn it." His body pressed me firmly against the window. The old, aluminum frame groaned and rattled. Below, the noises grew more agitated. In pure terror, I clutched at him, my fingers digging into his bare arms, terrified he would let go and I would fall.
"Adrian, I'm scared."
His gaze turned molten. He captured my mouth in a fierce, claiming kiss, prying my lips apart. The window shuddered violently behind me. I tried to push him away, but the fear of falling kept me anchored to him. I cried out, my protest swallowed, my voice growing ragged. By the time he finally drew back, my eyes were swollen, my lips bruised, and a deep literal ache throbbed where he had gripped me. He looked relaxed, almost satisfied. Sniffling, I watched as he brought me the now-cold bowl of noodles. "It's all soggy," I complained hoarsely. "Eat it or don't." I took the bowl. The first salty, lukewarm mouthful was a shock to my starved system. It was inexplicably delicious. I ate greedily. The others in the main bay exchanged looks of profound confusion. The next morning, as the team prepared to scavenge a nearby medical clinic, I was ordered to stay behind. Before they left, Adrian pulled me into the office again. His mouth found the soreness on my lip from the day before and worried it until I winced. He gave me a portion of his own protein bar. The stares from the others intensified. After the vehicles rumbled away, the redhead, Liam, approached. A fire user and Adrian's most zealous lieutenant. Left in charge. He looked me over, his nose wrinkled. "What did he want with you in there?" I considered ignoring him, but the meager breakfast hadn't touched my hunger. An idea formed. "Give me your bar and I'll tell you." Liam scowled and turned away. "Forget it." He took 2 steps, hesitated, then stormed back and shoved the wrapped bar into my hand. "Talk." I took a bite, then tilted my head up, showing him my swollen, reddened mouth. "See this?" He stared, uncomprehending. I sighed, as if explaining something simple to a child. "Your boss is obsessed with me. He forces these attentions on me because I won't give in to him willingly." Liam's eyes went wide. A few of the others lingering nearby stopped, pretending not to listen. "The boss? With you?" His disbelief was absolute. I took another slow bite. "Think about it. If you were the real son, and I treated you the way I treated him, what would you do to me now?" His expression hardened. "I'd feed you to the first pack of biters I saw." "Exactly," I said, coughing slightly. "So if he hates me that much, why save me yesterday? Why the private meetings? Why the extra food?" I let the question hang. Liam's honest face contorted in thought. "It's because he can't have my heart, so he's trying to claim everything else." A collective, sharp intake of breath echoed in the bay. When Adrian returned that evening, the atmosphere was charged with sideways glances and poorly hidden scrutiny. He seemed puzzled but asked no questions. Before the evening meal, his hand closed on my shoulder, steering me back toward the office. I shot a look of pure martyrdom toward Liam, who watched with grim understanding. The old window rattled its familiar complaint. Later, emerging unsteady on my feet, I found the story had solidified into accepted truth among the entire squad. The clinic run is all hands, Adrian announced the next day. We secure the supplies, then route directly back to base. Everyone knew a hospital was a death trap. But the need for antibiotics, surgical tools, and specific equipment was dire. The plan was precise. Enter through the underground parking garage, clear upward floor by floor. I was posted with Liam and a few others in the garage, guarding the exit. It went too smoothly. For hours, they hauled down carts loaded with sealed crates. A tense optimism began to lift the group. But a cold dread, a sensation of being watched, crept up my spine. As the last cart was being loaded near the stairwell door, the elevator across the bay dinged open. Distracted, the group's formation loosened. The attack was silent and from above. A mutated form, all leathery skin and elongated limbs, dropped from the ceiling supports behind me. Its cold, taloned finger grazed my hair. Death's breath was cold and sour. Adrian's lightning struck it a glancing blow. He shuddered but lunged for me, single-minded. Adrian interposed himself, his knife flashing up to block a sweeping claw. The force of the impact drove him back a step. He twisted, bringing the blade down in a savage arc aimed for its neck. The edge bit deep but stuck fast in the thickened hide. Adrian held on, channeling his power through the metal. The creature seized, smoke rising from the wound. "Get Liam," Adrian barked, his voice strained. I took 2 running steps before a pained grunt made me look back. A second mutant had struck, its claws raking across Adrian's shoulder, shredding fabric and skin. Adrian met my gaze. There was no fear there, only a fierce, focused intensity. He gave a slight, almost imperceptible shake of his head. When Liam and the others arrived, Adrian had dispatched the weaker one and was holding the primary mutant at bay. Together, they made quick, brutal work of it. In the sudden quiet, everyone stared at the ragged, bleeding wounds on Adrian's shoulder. The silence was heavier than any noise. "You take the trucks and the supplies back," Adrian said, his voice leaving no room for argument. He tore a strip from his shirt, binding the injury tightly. "Leave me 1 vehicle. If I'm not back at the base in 72 hours, Liam assumes command." Liam's eyes were red-rimmed. "Boss, come back." The lab teams, they're making progress. It was a hollow hope, and everyone knew it. As others tried to protest, Adrian simply walked to a stripped-down SUV, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. Just as he shifted into gear, the passenger door opened. I climbed in, clutching the small pack of personal gear I'd stowed in one of the other trucks earlier, my face a mask of calm. Adrian's knuckles were white on the wheel. "Get..." I ignored him, rolling down the window to call to Liam and the others. When you see Mr. and Mrs. Hayes at the base, tell them I'm bringing their son home." Adrian reached across me to shove the door open. I threw my arms around his neck in a desperate, clinging hold, pressing my face against his sternum. I looked up, my voice clear and steady. "Adrian, I know you won't believe this, but you need to hear it. Whatever you remember of me, just know I came here for you. If you die here, we'll meet somewhere else. If you live, I'm staying on this road with you. Throw me out now and I won't go back to the base. If you're comfortable with a powerless liability wandering the streets alone, then do it. Maybe I'll just wait for you up ahead." I gave him a small, reckless smile. Finally, his lips pressed into a thin line, and he slammed the vehicle into gear, peeling out of the garage. 520. Host. If a mental fragment expires within a simulation, the repercussions can include memory erosion, personality fragmentation, or critical cognitive regression. And the solution. 520. As your auxiliary system, I can initiate a contingency protocol. I can grant you a curative ability. It is target-locked to the primary subject. It will not function on any other entity. The method of transmission made me frown. Are you certain this is a standard stabilization protocol and not some repurposed narrative algorithm? Time was the enemy now. I found Adrian in a barren living room of a suburban house he'd chosen, The door locked from the inside. He sat perfectly still in an armchair, a statue of control. I found a rock and broke the window latch. He looked up as I entered, his pupils dilated, a sheen of sweat on his skin. The virus warred with his will. Leave. The word was a guttural command. Adrian, get out of here. His humanity fought to the surface, a last plea. Instead of leaving, I walked right up to him and wrapped my arms around his waist, burying my face against his neck. The instinct in his blood, sensing the unique genetic signature of the curative in mine, overwhelmed him. He drove me to the floor, his teeth finding the junction of my neck and shoulder. The pain was a white-hot spike. Darkness swallowed me. I woke to a stiff neck and a dull, throbbing ache. The wound had been cleaned and bandaged. Adrian stood by the boarded-up window, his forehead pressed against the wood, his shoulders tense. "Why didn't you go?" he asked, his voice rough. I pushed myself up, wincing. "I'm your guardian angel now. A little gratitude would be nice."
I'm hungry.
"Make me something." The corner of his mouth twitched. He didn't ask further questions. He built a small, careful fire in the fireplace, boiled water, and made a single serving of instant noodles. He opened a can of processed meat and slid half of it into the bowl. My eyes widened. Meat was a relic. I ate ravenously, the salty richness a profound pleasure. I noticed his own bowl held only a few noodles and broth, and his protein bar sat untouched beside it. I forked half of my meat and dropped it into his bowl. "Eat. I'm not as petty as some people. You don't have to provide certain services to get a share from me." He stared at the bowl, his jaw working. I was fairly sure he was contemplating throwing me into the fire. On the second day of the cautious drive back to the fortress-like walls of the western stronghold, Adrian pulled the SUV onto the shoulder. The desert sun beat down on the cracked highway. "Your condition," he began, his tone gravely serious. "The curative effect. It stays between us." He waited until I nodded. "I'll have you assigned to the Biomedical Research Division. For your own protection. No one else can know what you are. Your safety is now a priority for the stronghold. And for me." I blinked, processing. Cooperating with research is fine. But the efficacy might be limited. "It doesn't work on anyone but me," I clarified. He held my gaze for a long moment, his thoughts churning behind his eyes. Then he put the truck in drive and continued down the empty road. The celebration at the stronghold gates was palpable. Adrian's return, seemingly unharmed, was a morale victory. His vague explanation about a less virulent strain was accepted without question. As the crowd began to disperse, his hand closed around my wrist, pulling me into a guard post by the main entrance. "Take off your shirt," he said, leaning against the reinforced door, his arms folded. I stared at him, aghast. "Have you lost your mind? Here? People are right outside." A faint, knowing smirk touched his lips. "What would they hear? What do you think they'd hear? You know exactly what's in your own head." I sputtered, my face heating. He pushed off the door, the tension of the last weeks leaving him in a wave of predatory ease. He caged me against the wall, one hand planted beside my head. "Since you bit me, you seem to know exactly what's in my head. What if I decided to act on it? In your dreams?" I ducked under his arm and yanked the door open. Liam and several others were loitering just outside. Liam peeked past me into the room, then asked in a hushed tone, "That was fast. Is the wound check done already?" My face flamed. "Yes," I mumbled. The misunderstanding was perfect. Life within the stronghold's walls settled into a new rhythm. Adrian, as its de facto commander, was swallowed by endless logistical and strategic demands. Weeks passed without a personal encounter. I was moved from the Hayes family quarters to a private unit directly across the hall from his, with a dedicated ration allowance. The change was stark. I was leaving the hydroponic sector when a man I didn't recognize blocked my path. He was handsome in a sharp, angry way. "Can I help you?" I asked. His gaze was full of a confused resentment. Elliot, stay away from Adrian. He's carrying this entire place on his back. He's a good man. You're not worthy of him. A devoted admirer. A spark of mischief ignited in my boredom. I let my eyes go wide with shocked innocence. You think I'm pursuing him? Who else? He scoffed. I took a half step back, my expression melting into one of pained revelation, of a secret laid bare. It's not me. It's him. His feelings for me have always been complicated. And now, with me having no ability, and him with all this power, he takes what he wants. What choice do I have? I let my voice drop to a whisper. Even when he thought he was infected, he took me with him. He said if he turned, he'd make sure I was the first one he found. That we'd be together even like that. I was on a roll, building the tragic tale, when a large hand descended on the collar of my shirt from behind. I turned. Adrian's face was a study in contained fury, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Elliot, Liam, who had been walking nearby with Adrian, stepped forward, his expression earnest. Boss, come on. Everyone can see how you feel about him. Just be straight with the guy. Treat him right. You're always so intense, you'll scare him off. Yeah, another teammate chimed in. When Elliot thought you were turning, he risked everything to stay with you. That has to mean something. Faced with their sincere, utterly misguided appeals, Adrian's angry expression shifted into something more complex. He laughed, a short, incredulous sound, and his fingers found the nape of my neck, rubbing a slow, threatening circle. You're right, he said, his voice deceptively soft. I really should take better care of him. In full view of the entire courtyard, he hauled me over his shoulder like a sack of grain. Adrian, I can explain. Really. He carried me down the hall, shouldered open the door to my quarters, and deposited me on my feet. Sunlight streamed through the high window, illuminating motes of dust. I immediately put the small metal table between us. He watched my frantic movements, his arms crossed. Taking what I want, not getting what I ask for. He quoted, his voice low. The first bite? Zombie royalty? The table gave me a fragile sense of security. It was a joke. They took it the wrong way. He began to circle. So this isn't the first time you've spun a story? I avoided his eyes. He took 2 quick steps. I scrambled around the opposite side. After 2 full revolutions, his patience snapped. He lifted a hand and flipped the solid table onto its side with a deafening screech of metal on concrete. I turned to run. He caught me around the waist and pushed me down over the overturned tabletop, his body pinning me in place. What about repaying kindness with kindness? I cried, struggling. Who said anything about kindness? His mouth was close to my ear, his breath hot. Who framed me for a fall? Who spread lies that I traded myself for survival? And now, who's telling people I'm some desperate, obsessed man? A cold dread seeped in. I thought the life debt had wiped the slate. We had a truce. After I helped you. He shifted, his weight holding me effortlessly. We have a truce, he murmured, his lips grazing the shell of my ear, sending a traitorous shiver down my spine. For everything before you helped me. The rumors you're spreading now, that's damaging my reputation in the present. His mouth traveled down the column of my neck, his teeth grazing the skin. I wanted to do this outside the walls that day. He turned me to face him, his gaze burning with a heat that had nothing to do with anger. But here is just fine.